Be it listener, this episode is all the things. It's just so great. So, I really do. I'm constantly amazed by the people that I get to meet in this world, and I hope that and I hope that you get to have that experience in your life as well. And I will say, like, it is by putting yourself in really weird, uncomfortable, and blind date-ish experiences. But when you do that and you open yourself up to meeting new people and interesting people, it's really amazing what can happen. And this woman, this guest is Mallory Gott, and I just freaking love her. I love what she's doing. It amazes me. Her job sounds so freaking fun. And also the tips and advice she gives, like, she puts on these amazing experiences for even big companies and products, but she gave such great insight for, like, even redesigning your home, and all the tips she gives, like, can really change your day. I will be really honest. Before we recorded this episode, I was just having a really rough, long morning of meetings like that. I was like not excited. And it's not because I don't love what I do, but sometimes work just feels like work. And after listening to her and her tips and her advice, it changed my mood. It changed my spirit. And then I really did take her advice, her beit advice. Literally, I wrote some words down of how I want this week to feel and this day to feel. And I have changed my outlook on the whole thing. And I think that's really powerful in being it till you see it in your life. Like, we don't have to slog through things. We don't have to just get it done. We don't have to drag ourselves across the finish line. We can actually, using adjectives and her tips, absolutely change the way you are in that moment that you're in, including when you hear her talk about chopping vegetables. And so I am so grateful for Mallory. I'm actually really grateful for our mutual friend, Megan, who introduced us, because I got to have this experience in this conversation. But I'm actually even more grateful for you because you listen to the show each and every week and you tell your friends about it and you share it and you tell me your favorite parts. Because of you, I got to ask this amazing, incredible human being to be on this show. And so thank you. Thank you for being you. And thank you for being part of this entire Be It Till You See It mission. If it wasn't for you, I would just be asking random people to be on Zoom calls with me and recording them. And they might think that's weird. So, so you're a big part of how this happens. So here is Mallory Gott.
Welcome to the Be It Till You See It podcast, where we talk about taking messy action, knowing that perfect is boring. I'm Lesley Logan, Pilates instructor and fitness business coach. I've trained thousands of people around the world, and the number one thing I see stopping people from achieving anything is self-doubt. My friends, action brings clarity, and it's the antidote to fear. Each week, my guests will bring bold, executable, intrinsic, and targeted steps that you can use to put yourself first and be it till you see it. It's a practice, not a perfect. Let's get started.
All right. I have Mallory Gott here. I'm so excited we're finally doing this. We had too much fun talking the night away because of a mutual friend, Megan, who's going to be on the pod as well. And actually, she was the one who said, you should be on my podcast. And so I was like, well, let's meet up. And she planned this whole thing. And it's true. Like, we were talking and I was like, oh my gosh, first of all, I love this woman. I want to be her friend all the time. And I feel like Las Vegas is a lot like LA. Like, once you start working and traveling, even the locals aren't around as much. Mm-hmm. So we'll still have to make another date happen. But Mallory, I'm so glad you're here. You are out in the world doing your thing. Can you tell everyone who you are and what you do?
Yeah, well, thank you very much for having me, and shout out to Megan, who apparently is going to be on the podcast also, for getting us together. I appreciate it. So my name is Mallory Gott, but I go by Mal because it's easier and it's more fun. And when you and I met, I got to share a little bit with you, and we shared a lot about both of our kind of respective work areas, but about my experiential design firm. So long story short, because we're going to get into long story long in the next little bit of time here, and I don't want to, kind of kill the vibe right out of the gate. But in experiential design, where I started was really with event design and production, but slowly And then not slowly at all, it expanded into these other areas. And now experiential design has really taken the shape of a framework that I've built that I use with a variety of clients, where we look at any experience you might have, whether it's on a team level, an individual level, a project level, and we design it with a feelings-led approach. And we'll talk, I'm sure, about what that means, but it basically means we get to think about how somebody or a group of somebody's want an experience to feel. And then we help them design that experience and the process that they go through building it out to evoke those feelings as frequently as possible. So it's pretty cool stuff.
It is so I inquire your mind's mind. Want to know, do you just love how many different experiences you get to be part of? Because like, I feel like every day is every experience is going to be different.
They're really, really different. And I do. And one of the things that I really love, and it's a lot of fun for me when I get to have conversations like this, and I don't just say that like, oh, it's a lot of fun to talk about it, but it's a lot of fun because it reminds me that I can design the experiences in my day-to-day life using the same framework that I would share with anybody who said we have this to redesign, right? Like we have like a restaurant brand to redesign, which we've done, or we have a 7,500 person trade show that we're trying to redesign, which we're actively doing right now, or an art gallery that needs to find more customers. Like these are all things we've done. And so, you and I were talking right before we officially clapped into the podcast about the experience of traveling for work as being one of the things that we're now ramping back up on. Yeah. And we weren't specifically talking about the framework, but one of the things, like the way that I try to design the experiences with my business or my day-to-day are around things being simple, easy, and fun. That's the way I want stuff to feel. So, we got to talking about like, well, what makes some of this travel simpler or easier or more fun? And I could go into a whole rabbit hole. We touched on a couple of things, but like having this conversation, it is a great reminder. And it doesn't matter whether anyone that we work with is talking about like, I want to redesign, the way that I experience trying to find a life partner, like the dating experience, or which, I've had people say like, I hate trying to date. Like this experience sucks. And I'm like, great. So I bet you don't want it to feel like it sucks. Right. So like, let's put it through the framework. Or I've had people come in and say, we need to redesign this brand rollout or this product launch. And it doesn't matter what the experience is. It's the same framework, and it's cool to be able to see how it can be applied in so many different ways.
That's really cool that you said that, because I think we almost forget the experiences that we have. And we're like, for example, you have a friend who's like, dating is not fun. This experience isn't fun. And she might not think that someone who also helps launch a product can go, well, here, let's actually put it through this framework and let's make it more fun. But I think we forget that we have these tools at our disposal. Like, if you have something in your life that's already simple, easy, and fun, you might be able to like recreate the wheel with something else. So, okay. So you do big product launches, conference launches, and then also you are a dating coach on the side, apparently.
Well, I should be very clear. I am not a dating coach. And in fact, I should be the last person as a dating coach. But what I am a good coach of, and what the framework eventually expanded to include, were individual experiences that people had, and understanding that how you want an experience to feel regardless of what the experience is. And I can help you figure out how to take it through a set of simple steps that will allow you to create the experience to evoke those feelings. So in this case, it just so happened to be dating, but by no means am I a matchmaker. I mean, I'm like,
don't call her. Don't call her.
I have many nice friends, male and female and non-binary, and I would be happy to introduce them to people if as it suits. But like, that's not my bailiwick first and foremost. So just a quick disclaimer there. But yes, it runs the gamut.
So, okay. I think, there's, if you're listening, you're like, okay, but I don't have a lot product to launch. It's like, but you do have like Thanksgiving parties you're putting on, or Halloween events, or, I put on retreats, and something that I think one thing that I'm very clear on, and I probably should still use your framework, is when I'm having a business retreat coming here in March to Las Vegas. And I was like, okay, how do I want them to feel? What do I want them to prioritize? Like, what are those things? And making sure that those are the things that are in the schedule, in the calendar, to make sure that that's what happens. not everyone starts that way. What have you seen? Like, what are the mistakes in planning of experiences, and like, what should we be thinking about instead?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And for people who are going, yeah, that's cool if you plan a giant trade show, but like I'm trying to do a home renovation, right? Like, what are you talking about? So it's really great because it can be so ubiquitously applied. So just to I'll kind of do a quick parallel of what you're describing with the retreat that you're going to be organizing and putting on. And then I'll just use the example of a home renovation because I got to do this. This was the one that another person I worked with was like, all right, this experience in the past has been really horrific and I don't want it to be that way again. So like, how do we do this, right? So if we were to look at it in terms of the four steps of the framework, or the four different kind of parts of the framework, the first one would be how you want the experience to feel. We've already said that. So in the case of the retreat, you may identify, I usually encourage people to identify 3 to 5 adjectives that describe the ideal feeling that this experience will evoke. And then for the person doing the renovation, the same thing, right? So a lot of times when we start, people are thinking about the end product. So I'm thinking about how I want the retreat to feel for people who are buying it and coming to it, or I'm thinking about how I want the renovated space to feel once it's complete. And I kind of take those adjectives and I list them out. Then the second step is where we actually start looking at whether you're thinking about the experience design and those feelings in terms of how you want the process of building that experience to feel for you. So a lot of people can start with the end product and go, cool, I want this retreat to feel, informative or relaxing or inspirational, or I want this renovation to feel, calming and cozy, and I want it to feel like warm or inviting or whatever. But then when I start to take them through the second part where it's like, well, what does that look like for you as the person building the experience? It starts to feel a little bit murky. And they're like, what are you talking about? And that's where I have to say, well, if you can't, let's use the renovation. If you don't feel like the experience of picking out your contractors, going to pick out your designed materials, working with an interior designer if you're choosing to do so, even selecting the time that you want the renovation to start and scheduling it. If those things don't feel calming and inviting and relaxing, like it's going to be tough for you to get to an end product that feels the same way. Or if as you're designing the retreat itself, you're not feeling inspired, if every single thing feels like you're pulling teeth, or you're not feeling like it's informative, like you're getting kind of invigorated during the process of putting it together, then it's going to be difficult. People can do it and people do it all the time, but usually that's the part where you start to get into this mindset of like, okay, we just have to get through it. We just have to get to the end. And when you're in that mindset, the experience is you're no longer designing the experience.
No.
The experience is basically running roughshod over you and you're hoping to just cross the finish line. So those are kind of two of the earliest steps. And then we go through that very natural part that people's response to designing an experience for themselves is, which is like, okay, that's all well and good, but like really that's probably not going to work. Like I can't feel inspired all the time during the process of building a retreat, or I can't feel inviting and cozy and comfy while I'm trying to like I have to be so analytical or I have to get things done. And we really work through what are the things that are just the untruths about the way we typically design the experiences that we have, where we kind of think it's only once we get across the finish line that we can experience those feelings.
Yeah. And I think like just listening to it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to redo like 17 other things. Because it is true. Like I'm even sitting here right now, like as we're recording this, it's towards the end of 2021. And I'm like, I just got to get to December 12th. If I can get to December 12th.
Yeah.
And that's not fun. I'm not having fun going, I just got to get to December 12th. Like, it's like, I feel like those Ironmen, like we watch them and they're like crawling across the finish line. I'm like, I would love to just walk across with my head held high. And so I need to go back to my adjectives of how I want everything to feel so that I can actually experience it now. Okay. Then the next thing is if people can identify the adjectives of the thing that they want at the end, and then they can look at that as the experience. What are some things that the person doing the home renovation or someone creating a retreat, what can they do in their step one? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, what's that first next step to get started in that?
Yeah. So one of the ways that I try to help people with this, because for a lot of us, including myself at times, and that's why I was saying to you, it's not just lip service to me to have these conversations, because it is a reminder to me about how to reintroduce this into my own life all the time, right? Like you teach it and you do it, but sometimes it's easy to lose track of it for yourself.
Yeah.
So when we've had people, if people can identify those adjectives, and I encourage people to get really specific, because it's a lot easier to understand whether something you're designing as like an interim touch point gets you closer or further away to something that is, let's say, the inspirational or the adjective is dazzling, than it is to say, oh, it's good. Like, well, what's good, right? Good's really kind of nebulous. It's kind of vague. So if you can identify those adjectives first, then the next step, for most people, because they want to jump right into it, but it's such a big paradigm shift to think about the experience and the adjectives first, is to start with something really, really small and almost innocuous, or maybe not even related to the big experience that you're designing. So if you're in the person that's doing the home renovation, and you've picked the adjective of what was one, inspirational or cozy or inviting or whatever, then, instead of going like, okay, now I'm going to go out and pick a general contractor and I'm going to do a whole design and the first thing you might do might be to just go to the Lowe's or Home Depot near you and walk through the hardware section. And I mean like the cabinetry hardware, or unless you love tools, go to that hardware section or wherever you want to go. And just look at, like, if I hold up two things, which one do I think is cozier, and be honest with yourself. Like, is this cozier or this cozier? Do I really love farmhouse modern, or am I really like back in the day buffet and I love Baroque weirdo, our handle cabinetry? But because like so many times we'll tell ourselves like, okay, I want it to feel cozy, but everybody does farmhouse modern right now, and that's what I should be doing. And it's like, maybe you should be, or maybe you shouldn't be, and if you're in the vein of the retreat and planning that process, a lot of times it's like, okay, I do want it to feel informative or inspirational, but I have to be realistic about, and I say realism is one of the red flags that I'm out of experience design land and I'm into analytics led design. I have to be realistic about what needs to get done. And it's like, yeah, okay, you do. But if you've got some things that you need to be done, what are I have to pull together these 3 communications that are going to get sent to my internal team so that they can push them out to the people participating. Let's say that's one of them. Okay, so how do I design that small, seemingly inconsequential experience to be more inspirational to me, or to be more informative or exciting, or whatever adjectives I picked? And that can be stuff as simple as like where I sit to write those communications, or the language that I use as I'm sending it out, or I've had clients do this where they're like, we can't possibly introduce, a GIF or a meme into our messaging. And I'm like, why not? Like, if that makes it feel more lighthearted and whimsical, and that's what you're designing this experience to be, give it a whirl. Like the worst case scenario, you're out one message, right? So the first step for people who've got the adjectives is to take them and to insert them. And we use a lot of Mad Libs in the framework. Insert them into these small touch points and design with the feelings first for these small touch points. If you can't find the adjectives, then there's this kind of a sub step to help with that as well. Because sometimes for folks, even just trying to identify truly, how do I want this experience to feel, is such a foreign concept that they're like, I can't even get there. and they can get there. They just need a little bit of additional support to do it.
Yeah. I mean, you have my mind thinking, because I was on a meeting with my team and I'm like, I do not even like how I'm being on this meeting. I don't like how this meeting is going.
Yeah.
And it's like, if we can really identify those adjectives, and I might have to have them on my wall where I can see them. But just trying to insert that can really change the outcome of everything, because it's true. Like, if you want something to be inspirational, but not a single meeting has anything inspiring in it, it starts to feel a little disjointed and almost like, I think that's also where even imposter syndrome can come in for people, or like misalignment and feeling like they're not, well, imposter is exactly the right word. So, if you're putting on an inspirational event, but no one is having fun and no one's inspired, it's not going to come out the way it could, It makes
Yeah.
me think of like when you pour water on a plant, they've done studies, right? If you pour water on a plant saying negative things, the plant dies. And if you pour water saying positive things, it lives. So that's where my mind is going. This is really cool.
Yeah, so don't shame your plants, whether they're meetings or picking a general, like don't shame your proverbial plants. Support and
Yeah,
love your plants, right? Do
Mallory,
that. Take
that's
that
your new
approach.
shirt. That's
Don't
your new
shame your
shirt.
plants. That's right. That's right.
So okay. Um, I think that's really, I think that's really cool. Just going to the hardware store, starting with one thing is this cozier, because that actually does really help people. I think the touch also helps people get a little bit more in there
Mhm.
and put them in there. Okay, what has been the most fun experience you've put together?
Oh
Whatever
man.
if you can share. But yeah.
Yeah. No, well, there are some that I've done in my personal life that have nothing to do with the business that have been an absolute hoot, but there have been several as well that have been business related. One that comes to mind is just so we went in, so on the business side of things, we went into this organization in Chicago. They had this big event product that they had been, it had been held for many years, and they didn't feel like it was doing much and it was stagnant, and they brought us in to help them redesign the experience. And one of the things that we did, so they told us even before we got there and did the initial exercise of defining the adjectives with them, some of the folks in their leadership team told us they really wanted something transformational. And so what we did was to go in and do the actual meeting with this group of probably 10 to 12 people. We went in a day early and they were like, why are you here? Do we need to be here? And we were like, no, you just show up the next morning. We got everything covered. So we actually took their conference room and completely converted it. We designed the entire conference room. We brought in all this stuff um, to like make it look and feel completely different than what they were accustomed to. And we had put up paper all in all the windows on the one side where people could see in, and it was like, under construction and stuff. So they came in and they had this unbelievable reaction to like, what is this? What? And of course we use that as a way to try to get them like, hey, this is transformational. This is the kind of thing that you're hoping people are going to feel when they participate. But then the cool part was that, so they're going through the morning, they're having a great time. We're doing all these exercises, we're getting a bunch of stuff down. We excuse them, we send them out to lunch to do this activity where they're going to different places in small groups and they're seeing what the experience is through this lens of experience design. During the hour that they had lunch, we flipped the room entirely. So we designed it in such a way that they could come back, like we could really fast pull everything and change the look entirely. And it was a completely different vibe. And so they came back and they were like, what the heck? It was like a whole nother. And so it was also designed to show them that transformational doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be this really stagnant transformation, or that it's got to be this thing that, if you do it with some forethought, you can have multiple transformations in a single experience and really drive home that concept and that feeling for the people who are participating. And so what was cool for me was the creativity of like designing that experience for the customers that we had, brought in. But then also seeing them actually start to really see it and to start to kind of cement this concept in their minds of like, okay, we get what the feeling is. We don't have to wait until, a year from now, once we've done this, to experience this feeling. Like there are things we can start to do right now, and they can be iterative, and they can be, there can be a number of them continuously that will allow us to know whether we're achieving this feeling or we're moving further away from it.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the coolest experiences I've had, that, you could just see it all over. You could read them like a book, and it was really fun.
Okay. So, do you have a favorite website for that adjectives? Because you use the best ones. Like I love more. I feel like I always want to know more words, and you have used 17 words that I probably haven't used in a sentence in a year. So like, I'm just
you know what? I'm a big fan. I keep it simple. I use thesaurus.com. I use it often. I use it when I write. I use it frequently. So, thesaurus.com, shout out to them. They're great. They do have a lot of pop-up ads on their site, but that's because it's a free website. So I won't complain, because they do a great service to the English speaking community of the world. So yay for thesaurus.com.
Oh my God. I love you. I can see why people have to hire you. And I also can see how like what you put together, your framework can be so useful in even like, I mean, I feel like parents homeschooling their kids could have had a totally different experience last year if they had had, how do I make this easy, simple, and fun? And what experience do I want to feel like at the end of the day?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's just it, is it's when when a person starts to shift their paradigm to this concept that literally anything I do, my drive to or from wherever I have to go during a given day, the experience of putting together dinner for myself or for my family, grocery shopping, the meetings that I have to conduct online or at home, or in the office if I'm back in the office, picking the contractor, designing the retreat. Any of these things, they're all experiences. And I really do have the ability to figure out how I want to feel and then design these to maximize those feelings. Man, it's a real game changer for people because they start to realize that they're no longer beholden to things that they think are basically defining the experience that they have in a given day. They start to recognize that they can design those things themselves. And it is really, really quite a cool thing to watch people do it and see them go, oh my God, I can really do this kind of anywhere in any way that I want. This is cool.
100%. I mean, like you can, like, it's just like, you can like literally turn your day around. If you're not enjoying the experience of your day, you're like, okay, how do I want this day to go? And like really do. So you made me think of, okay. So I hate grocery shopping, like hate it. And before, delivery was really a thing and accessible to get my groceries delivered, I used to tell Brad, I'm like, okay, this is the amazing race. Like, we're just going to go into Trader Joe's. We have 22 minutes. That's all I'm giving Trader Joe's. And so we're going to go in there and we're going to team up. You have a list, I have a list, and we're just like going through, and I'm like, okay, we're out. We like would separate in the lines to see whose line is faster. We made it a game. And I was like, okay, we won that.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I mean, and it's like one of the things that was such an eye opener for me, and I laugh about this every time I share it because it sounds so ridiculous, but so I don't hate grocery shopping. I don't mind it. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. But one of the things I do absolutely dislike strongly, I shouldn't say hate, but I don't like it very much, weirdly, is cutting up vegetables. I really am not great at it and I can't stand it. And so I was like, finally one day I was like, how do I design this experience? Like, I was so angry chopping something, and I was like, wait a minute, you dingbat, why don't you just buy vegetables that are pre-cut? Like, what are you doing? It makes it so much easier, and it takes 5 seconds. And I will tell you that since I started doing that, the quality of my food prepping experience has increased exponentially. And it was so simple, and like when I tell people that, sometimes they're like, okay, but that sounds like you're just like, what, who cares? Or is this just if you can, and I'm like, no, because it's all these little experiences that you have. It's all these little things. And like, it's giving yourself permission to really look at what's more important. Is it creating experiences on a moment by moment basis that allow me to feel better most of the time? And I don't mean selfishly being like, I don't ever do anything that I don't care for. That's not the point. But is it creating whatever experience you've got to go through, designing it so that you can maximize those feelings to the best of your ability? Or is it just saying like, I kind of have to slog through everything and hope that once in a while something crops up that gives me those feelings, but it's completely out of my control when and where it happens? I personally prefer the former, because it allows me to go through even stuff that might not be my first choice in a way that's much, much more, for me, enjoyable. Like, it's just a lot more fun to buy pre-cut vegetables than it is to angry chop them in my house.
I love that so much. So you brought up something about cutting vegetables, and I think that is hilarious because I do think so many people are not cooking more because they also hate cutting vegetables. Like I was reading a book, and this woman wants to prepare, like do the weekly food preparation, but it's true. Like, the amount of vegetables you have to chop to make 5 salads for the week is just really annoying. And she got a mandolin, and that made it super fun. And so it's like just asking yourself in any experience, is this the way I want it to go? And how do I want it to go? And what different choices can I make? And so for you, it's buying pre-chopped vegetables. I love buying those. Brad makes fun. Maybe doesn't make fun, but I do think he looks at me like, why did you buy this chopped carrots? We have a 5-pound bag of carrots. And it's like, yes, but I have to skin them or whatever it is. And then I have to chop them. And by the time I've done that, I don't even want to eat them. I've been looking at them too long. I don't want to do it. So I buy the pre-cut ones for my snacks because I just want to have carrots as a snack. I don't want to make it an effort.
Yeah. And, and for anyone, those things are different, right? Some people would listen to this conversation and be like, oh my gosh, really? You can't cut vegetables? Like you're pretty pretentious, right? But it's like, no, it's not about the vegetable cutting per se. And I certainly, if I been in positions where it's like, yeah, that couple of dollars makes a difference. I will just do this thing, of course. But then if it was like, all right, I got to do it, then how am I doing it? Right? Like, I mean, I've gotten so ridiculous as to be like, I'm gonna put on, I really love very aggressive hip hop. Maybe not the most, acceptable thing, but like I'll put on aggressive hip hop and I'll put on it's silly stuff, like an outfit that I like, or I'll make sure like I'll set a timer and be like kind of like the Trader Joe's Amazing Race where I'll be like, all right, without cutting your fingers off, what can you do in 10 minutes, right? And then you're done, and that's going to be what it is. And like, or I'll even, kind of try to do it in such a way where it's like I'm going to buy the things that I know are easier to chop, right? So it's just understanding whatever the kind of the parameters are, that the ones that are not malleable, the rigid parameters that you're dealing with. Within those parameters, how can you design this experience to be as evocative of these feelings that you want to have as possible? Because there's always room to play around. It doesn't matter what the experience is, how much money you have, how much time you have, whether or not you have to do it, or it's kind of optional for you. Like there's always room to play around with designing it in such a way that you really are creating the best experience for you based on how you want to feel.
I mean, I am obsessed with you because it's basically like you're giving people the opportunity to, in the moment, even change the experience that they're having, and also really be in charge of the experience they're having in their life. I mean, we can't control everything, but we can control the music we're playing in the moment in our house, or we can really ask ourselves like, okay, I don't like how I'm feeling. Like, how do I want to feel? And what options do I have to make that feeling happen? And, that's like, so be it till you see it. and that's, I hope you all see, like when I heard she does this for a big event, it's like, and she's like, no, I know you want to have a transformational event, but we have to be transformational in the meeting to have a transformational event. I'm like, yes, that is exactly how life should be lived. And I'm just so grateful for you. All right, Mallory, where can they find you, follow you, stalk you, hire you? Where are you hanging out these days? Stalk in a good way.
I was going to say, if you happen to be in the greater Las Vegas area, you can often find me in Vesta Coffee Roasters. Shout out to Vesta, which is downtown. But
obsessed with Vesta, obsessed. We brew there. I actually, okay, this is just a little moment on Vesta. When we're running out low on coffee beans, I literally go on to the app to order 2 amazing lattes and a bag of coffee beans. And
there it is. There it is. If you got to go in and pick up the beans, you might as well get a latte to go for you and the boo. But assuming many people may be listening to this who are not in the greater Las Vegas area, there are a few ways to get a hold of me. So number one, please feel free to visit our website, gaexperiences.com. That's got a whole litany of information on it about the different groups you've worked with, the framework, how you can get access to the course that I teach about the framework, all kinds of good stuff. You can also check me out on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn profile is a good way to get a hold of me directly if you're interested in more information, or you'd like me to come out and hang out with you, help you redesign your dating experience, your home renovation. I don't typically do spouse redesigns. That's above my pay grade. But a lot of other things, working with teams, working with organizations, that's a great way to get me relatively quickly. So I would say those are probably the 2 quickest ways to get a hold of either me or me through a couple of folks at the company who keep tabs on our website communication tools.
Love that. Okay. So be it action items, like what can people do to prioritize themselves, prioritize changing their experience? What do you got for us?
Yeah. So one of the things that I often suggest, I mentioned we use Mad Libs, is to use kind of a daily Mad Lib. So this is an exercise we have people do. Well, it's part of an exercise we have people do early on when they're learning the framework. And that is to, rather than designing a large scale experience, pick the 3 adjectives you'd like to experience in a given day or a morning or hour, whatever period of time is really pretty incremental for you. And then we have them put down their to-do list. So the things that you have to do in a given day, name a couple of those. They can be as simple as brush your teeth or as complex as, buy a home or whatever you got on the docket. And then we have them go through this Mad Lib where they invert whatever their to-do is and we turn it into a get-to-do. And so we say, in order to feel, I don't know, bubbly. While I am doing the laundry, I can X, Y, and Z, right? And we have people start to list out a couple things that they can do, small, big, in between, it doesn't matter, to start shifting their paradigm around those daily get to do experiences that we have that we can design. So if you do nothing else, I would say give that a whirl. It's a great, great place to start. And it's a nice, easy way to kind of dip your toes in the water of feelings-led experience design without having to completely overhaul every single facet of your life from the jump.
That's so fun. I love that. Okay. Well, I'm going to do that after this. When I hang up, I'm going to be like, okay, how do we rechange this list of things to do today to get us to December 12th?
Yeah, that's right. That's absolutely right.
Mallory, I can't wait. Well, we'll have to do Vesta. I actually go every Saturday after I work out with one of our mutual friends. So we go every Saturday morning, and I just love that place so much. It's actually why we moved. That coffee shop is why I moved to Las Vegas. So
it's a winner. It's a real winner. Yeah, I agree. It's got a special place in my heart. I could be sponsored by Vesta on many days. I think if they did sponsorships, I feel like I could really throw my hat in the ring.
Well,
qualifying for one.
We'll have to send this episode to them because that's a couple of us would like a sponsorship, and they're neighbors of mine. They actually live down the street. So I probably could just make that happen.
Knock on the door. Hey,
hi.
Sharon. Hi.
We could really help. You could actually change this experience a little bit with us. Mallory, you are lovely. Enjoy your trip that you're on. And thank you for taking your time to really share this with our listeners, because I really think it's life-changing, and I'm so inspired from where I was 45 minutes ago. So thank you. Thank you. And I will hopefully see you in Vegas soon.
Yay. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too. Everyone, until next time, be it till you see it.
That's all I got for this episode of the Be It Till You See It podcast. One thing that would help both myself and future listeners is for you to rate the show and leave a review. And follow or subscribe for free wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, make sure to introduce yourself over at the Be It Pod on Instagram. I would love to know more about you. Share this episode with whoever you think needs to hear it. Help us and others be it till you see it. Have an awesome day.
Be It Till You See It is a production of As the Crows Fly Media.
It's written, produced, filmed, and recorded by your host, Lesley Logan, and me, Brad Kroll. Our associate producer is Amanda Fraterelli.
Kevin Perez at Disenyo handles all of our audio editing.
Our theme music is by Ali at Apex Production Music, and our branding by designer and artist Gianfranco Cioffi.
Special thanks to our designer Jairo Mandal for creating all of our visuals, which you can't see because this is a podcast, and our digital producer Jay Perdoso for editing all the video each week so you can.
And to Angelina Herrico for transcribing each of our episodes so you can find them on our website. And finally, to Meredith Crowell for keeping us all on point and on time.